Welcome back. I'm Julian at Just Inspired, and I'm just taking a quick look at this laptop screen. I need to take it out because he's got a broken screen. Nasty. And I want to make sure I'm ordering the correct thing, so I will remove the screen from the laptop before I do anything. So to do that, the first thing you should do, even though I know it's a pain in the bum, is to disconnect the battery, because if you're removing the display connector, remember there's always some voltage on the display connector, and that voltage is high enough to wreck the motherboard if the ends of that connector get shorted onto ground or together, and there is a high chance of that happening if you're not careful. So in order to eliminate that possibility, always disconnect the battery first. So let's do that. So to get into this one, I'm going to peel back these rubber thingies so we can get to the screws. Just put that on there. You want to be careful not to stretch these, otherwise you'll end up having to cut them, because if they stretch then they'll extend beyond the little channel that they sit in, so make sure not to stretch those when you're pulling them out. And the same for the front, or does the front not have those? I think the front has a couple of screws here, so we may not find any under this one. No, I don't see any. Right. Okay. Screws out. Let's get a little magnet. These are from a laptop hard drive. We've got a couple in the center. And then these are the hinge. And then you've got one odd man out, which is a silver screw. Right. Let's find something to prise that open. If it's never been opened before, it might take a little more persuasion. No, I don't want you on. Go to bed. Now this one has been a pain, so let's see if there is actually a screw hidden somewhere along here. So there was a hiding one. No hiding. Right, now we shouldn't have so much trouble, he says. Alright, that's better. This is a very basic laptop with no fan. And this reminds me of something. I once had a guy bring me a laptop, and it was just like this one in that it has no fan, no CPU fan. It just has a low enough powered processor that it doesn't need one. It basically just has a piece of metal on top to disperse the heat. Anyway, he brought it to me, and I basically gave him a quote. I can't remember exactly what it was in for. And I don't know if he didn't like my quote or he didn't believe me or something, so he took it to somebody else. And the guy told him that the person who looked at the laptop before, i.e. me, had stolen his fan. And he called me up and he accused me of stealing his CPU fan. And I kind of laughed and I said, but there is no CPU fan. And he's like, no. The guy said it was a CPU fan, and whoever had the laptop open last, they didn't put it back in. And I said, I don't know what to tell you, mate, but there is no CPU fan on that model. Anyway, he was grumbling and he hung up, and I don't know what happened after that, but I thought it gave me a good laugh. Like, you know, if I forgot to put the CPU fan in, I would say, yeah. And I'm not going to risk my reputation to steal a CPU fan of all things. Yeah, I don't think so. Right, somebody just came to drop off some stuff to repair, so back to this one. Battery out. Okay. Probably easiest, since I'm already down this far, to just disconnect the display and work on it out of the laptop, because they're not always easy to work on if you don't separate them. So that's the display cable there. Zoom that in a bit. Yeah, that's the display cable, and it's wedged under the power cable. Okay. Let's get another magnet and put the hinge screws on that. That is one hinge. That is the second hinge. Come on, be nice. Good boy. Right. Do we have... what is that cable there? Do we have a Wi-Fi cable? Yeah, that's it. Wi-Fi cable is all over the place. I think it goes under that board. Yeah, I think it goes under there. So I'll take this out. What's that? That's a card reader. Card reader and the switch. Yeah, here's the cable for the Wi-Fi. So let's unhook all of that. And then I prefer just to leave the card attached. I don't have to remove the press fit connector on there, because those sometimes can give a lot of trouble. They can break. So I might as well just leave it attached. Right, I will put the screw back in for that Wi-Fi card, and the 2 screws for this board. Lovely. Right, so now that should just come away from there. Get these out of the way. Right, so the hinge cover appears to be separate. Yep. Now we need to remove the bezel. The bezel usually has double-sided tape, and these screens no longer are screwed onto the lid. They are held in by adhesive. Oh, the joy. Right, since this screen is broken, I'm not going to be too careful with it. I am more or less wanting to save the bezel rather than the screen. That is seriously stuck down. Right, let's be careful of the webcam. Yes, what you want? You want treats, huh? Treats. Look. Alright, maybe you'll leave me alone now. Right, that bit of the bezel is off. Got it out in one piece. Right, so usually on these we've got a pull tab or two to get the screen off. And they're held in usually with special stretch release adhesive, which is very clever stuff. Right, let me get something under the screen. Use one of the spudgers. Flat sides. Alright, then I need to unhook this little bit of stretch tape. I put that in a difficult place, haven't I? Right, let's make a note of where that wire goes. Just sits on top of the hinge. Take that hinge off just to check where we are, because they might have wedged it under the hinge. Another magnet for the hinge screws. Hey, stop scratching my chair. No, go and sleep. Go into bed. Go on in your bed. Right, start pulling that out. Try and keep it as flat as possible. Now, right, there we go. Stretch release tape. So now that side's up. So we need to do the same on the other side. Okay. Okay, we've got another piece of tape here. There's no latch on that one. Right, so that's a 30-pin connector, and it is a BOE screen. So I just need to get one that is equivalent to that. I much prefer to find the actual screen number, so I know I can order it from that instead of just guessing on the model number, because sometimes the manufacturers will they'll have more than one production run, and sometimes things can change, and sometimes you've got various screen options. It's not so important on a budget laptop like this, but sometimes you get some have got IPS screens, some have got anti-glare, matte, or glossy, or just different options. So let's get that ordered, and I shall pack this all away until we get the new screen. Until the next time, see ya.